If you've watched many anime or read many manga, you'd probably know that Dragon Ball Z is notorious for their absolute dominance when it comes to power scaling. There are people who will charge at other people's throats for even saying anyone in the big three can even dent a planet, and here we have King Vegeta just straight up lifting his hands and blowing up multiple planets. The peak of multiple verses is literally the Saiyan Saga to this day, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But what if we put Boros, the Frieza equivalent of the One Punch Man universe, against our heroes from the early arcs of Z? Would they even stand a chance? Would Boros mop them, or do the Z fighters have what's necessary to defeat the opponent? Also, I just want to get this out of the way as well. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers soon, and if you want to be a part of that milestone, be sure to subscribe. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you feel the need to, so yeah, enjoy the video. So firstly, how do we set this up? Well, for one, we'll just assume that all of the Z fighters aside from Goku are present on the battlefield in the exact same way they were when Nappa and Vegeta arrived on Earth. The roster for the Z fighters during the Saiyan Saga is as follows: Krillin, Piccolo, Gohan, Tien, Chaozu, and Yamcha. Daisenshuu was used to gauge the power levels of the characters, and according to it, everyone except Chaozu is at the same level of Raditz. Although Yamcha's power level is slightly lower than Raditz, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, as it's worth noting that other characters were able to perform feats that Yamcha should also be capable of doing, considering how effortlessly said feats were done and how much stronger he is than Goku and Piccolo when Raditz first arrived on Earth. To establish a general understanding of the power level of each Z fighter, we can look at this feat done by Piccolo, where he showed his strength by completely annihilating the moon with a powerful Ki Blast attack. This feat serves as a useful benchmark for gauging the capabilities of the other Z fighters in comparison to Piccolo's level of the power. Although Piccolo was able to destroy the moon with his Ki Blast attack, he was still weaker than Raditz, who Goku and Piccolo had fought prior to this event. However, this scaling of power does not stop here, as Raditz was also able to dodge Piccolo's special beam cannon, which is said to be a beam of light. This feat indicates that Raditz would have needed to move at faster than light speeds to evade this attack. Although some calculations show that Piccolo's moon-busting attack could also be considered as small planetary, such calculations are not truly significant. This is because Master Roshi in the original Dragon Ball series was able to obliterate the moon in a similar manner to Piccolo. In fact, some guidebooks have even stated that Master Roshi has the power to destroy entire planets with ease and even power up a star. This is further supported by King Piccolo's statement that he could have destroyed the entire world, which is consistent with the planetary destruction capability when taking the guidebook statements into consideration. And that's an OG Dragon Ball where if you put Raditz into the series, he would absolutely solo everyone in it. This is shown when he literally embarrasses Goku and Piccolo, who almost every Z fighter up to the Saiyan Saga is pretty much superior to at this point. Surprisingly, Saiyan Saga Chaozu should be stronger than Master Roshi during the original Dragon Ball series. Based on this information, it should be clear that each member of the Z fighters should have a power level that is baseline planetary. In fact, if someone were to argue that the Z fighters' power levels were lower, it would be considered a disingenuous downplay, and the lowest level that you could reasonably argue for them would still be moon level, which would be a significant downplay of their true power. Taking into account the feats and statements made by various characters within the Saiyan Saga, it is also reasonable to argue that each Z fighter during this point had a power level ranging from moon level to large planetary level. However, it's worth noting that the highest power level that could reasonably argued for any of the Z fighters during this time would be star level, based on the statements that Master Roshi could power up a star. It's also important to consider that the power levels of the Z fighters were not fixed or stagnant during the saga. They were constantly growing and developing new abilities, which would have increased their power levels over time. Therefore, any estimates of their power level during this time should be viewed as a rough approximation, subjected to change as they continue to train and gain new skills. When it comes to Goku's power level during the Saiyan Saga, it could be reasonably argued that he was at star level based on an RPG databook. This databook states that the Spirit Bomb attack used by Goku against Vegeta during the Saiyan Saga is equivalent to a supernova. Moreover, it should be noted that Vegeta was going to destroy the entire Earth as well. This just sort of serves as a solidifying factor when it comes to planetary scaling for this saga. This information about a star level spirit bomb can also be consistently used with the planetary scaling previously mentioned to determine how Goku should upscale from that point. It's also worth noting that this data book is a licensed source, which means it can be considered a reliable source of information when it comes to determining the power levels of characters within the Dragon Ball universe. It is also important to keep in mind that Goku's power level during the Saiyan Saga was not fixed and evolved over time. Therefore, while it is reasonable to estimate his power level at star level during the Saiyan Saga, it is also possible that he was even more powerful than that. In my opinion, even if you try to underestimate Boros as much as possible, his destructive power would still be at planetary level. There is some confusion around the actual extent of Boros' power, as different versions of the story provide different information. For instance, while the manga suggests that Boros' meteoric burst can only destroy the planet's surface, making him multi-continental in terms of power, the anime states that it can actually destroy the entire planet itself, which is planetary in terms of destruction. The debate around this topic largely centers around which version of the story you consider to be definitive or canon, as well as the possibility of mistranslations from Japanese to English. It's worth noting that the original webcomic doesn't provide any information on the attack potency of Boros' star collapsing or in canon. Assuming that the translations from Japanese to English are accurate, there are some differences in how the attack potency of Boros is described in different media forms of One Punch Man. In the original manga by One, it is suggested that the attack will wipe Saitama off the surface of the earth. However, in the professional manga drawn by Yusuke Murata, the statement is altered to suggest that the attack could wipe Saitama and the Earth's surface away. In the anime, if the subtitles are correct, the attack is recontextualized to indicate that it has the potential to destroy the entire planet and not just the Earth's surface. It's important to correct a common misconception that has been circulating among the One Punch Man fanbase that Boros can destroy a star with his attack. This idea comes from the guidebook that was created to complement the first season of the anime. However, this is not supported by any information within the original source material. It's possible that the idea that Boros can destroy a star with his attack is a result of a misinterpretation or mistranslation, as the same kanji in Japanese can be used to refer to both star and planets. However, even if this interpretation of the guidebook was correct, it wouldn't be significant because the guidebook is supplementary to the anime. The anime is based on the source material that the guidebook is derived from, so if there are discrepancies between the two, the anime should be considered the more authentic source. It's also worth noting that the manga, webcomic, and anime all seem to have different interpretations of the power of Boros' ultimate attack. As a result, it's up to the individual interpretation as to which version of the story should be considered canonical and definitive. Some may argue that each version represents its own equally valid take of the story, while some may choose one as a definitive version. Ultimately, it's up to the individual to decide which version they prefer and how they interpret the story. It should be noted that just because a particular attack is capable of destroying a planet, it doesn't mean that's all it's capable of doing. There could be other effects that come along with it, and the full extent of the power may not be fully understood or explored. In the case of Boros' attack, while it is stated in the anime that it could destroy the entire planet, it's possible that there were other aspects of its power that were not fully explored or explained. During their battle, Boros launched Saitama towards the moon at an incredibly high speed, approaching or even exceeding the speed of light. This demonstrates the immense power and force behind Boros' attack, as well as his ability to manipulate and control that power, despite the intensity of the battle. Saitama himself remarked that it was almost a true battle. This can be used to put Boros' speed anywhere from relativistic to FTL at the very highest. It's apparent that Boros was able to match Saitama's speed and strength, even though Saitama was indeed holding back. This is pretty impressive given that Saitama had previously demonstrated his incredible reaction time and agility by easily dodging the near light speed pitches of whatever the fuck his name is, I don't know, with minimal effort. However, when it came to his fight with Boros, Saitama seemed to be challenged more, despite still holding back. Overall, it should be clear that Boros falls within the ranges of multi-continental to planetary levels of power scaling, with the potential to reach star level if we take into account the statements found in the One Punch Man guidebook, which indicates that Boros could straight up just blow up a star, with this star collapsing roaring cannon, with relativistic to FTL speeds. So I just gotta state this very clearly, that if we're using the power scaling from multi-continental to planetary levels for Boros, then Yamcha alone would easily defeat him. I know that's gonna get me a lot of hate, but that's just how it is. To level the playing field, let's give Boros the benefit of the doubt and assume that his power can reach up to star level, which is the highest power scaling within the One Punch Man universe, until you get to, like, you know, Saitama versus Garo and stuff. However, even with this highballing, the fight would still ultimately end up as a team effort against Boros. Boros would still be able to take down some of the Z fighters on his own, like Chaozu and Yamcha, but he would eventually face Goku in a one-on-one battle. It's also important to note that the Z fighters are extremely powerful in their own right, with Goku being the strongest of them all. Even with Boros at his peak, he would at best compare to Goku during the Saiyan Saga. The key factor in this fight would be teamwork. The Z fighters are known for their abilities to work together in battles, if you're excluding their Saiyan pride. And like, if we're assuming that Goku isn't there at the beginning of the fight, similar to how he wasn't during the Saiyan Saga, then there would be no Saiyan pride in the way, meaning that the Z fighters would actually just like jump him, and this would give him a significant advantage against Boros. So yeah, can Boros defeat the Z fighters? It's very unlikely that he would. So yeah, that's kind of just how it ends up being. Boros needs his peak scaling to even compare to Goku during the Saiyan Saga, and if we're not giving him his peak scaling, that he'd be multi-continental to large planetary, meaning that he'd probably be outscaled by someone like Piccolo. And I know this video is going to draw me a lot of hate, but that's just kind of how it is. Dragon Ball just has a significant difference in power, and that's just kind of how it's been. But yeah, if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and we're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers soon. And I saw this video called Saiyans versus the S-Class Heroes, and I kind of wanted to do that as kind of just like a follow-up to this video. So yeah, if you guys want to see that, get this video to 1,000 likes, and bye.